It is the Riot podcast. This is the Tuesday, March 28th edition. Isaiah, how you feeling? Day 2 of no Nikki.
Feel good.
Feeling good.
Feel fresh.
Feeling as good as we can without Nikki around. And you know what? I bet you she feels even fresher.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Since she's on vacation. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling particularly jazzed today because you know what I'm doing after work?
What are you doing?
I'm going to rush home. I'm going to fire up my Xbox. Going to play MLB The Show 23.
Oh, it's open up?
It's today. Today's the big day. I think if you pre-ordered or like you get early access, but today is the big release date. It's on Game Pass and everything. And I don't do a ton of gaming, but I do a ton of MLB The Show.
So how long do you think you'll play for?
I don't want to answer that.
Of this weekend are you going to spend playing
Oh,
the show?
I don't want to answer that.
A lot of time.
It's yeah, because the answer would be bad. I mean, you know what? There's people out there, they fire up whatever their game is, and they play way more than I do. But for me, MLB The Show, I will play way more and spend way too much time with it, and it amounts to nothing. I don't seem to get any better. I'm not particularly good. It frustrates me, and yet I just can't quit it.
Does Angela ever get mad at you for playing the show?
Well, she'll play with me.
So she doesn't get mad at
She
her?
plays. She doesn't get mad at me for playing too much. She gets mad at me when I get too mad at the game. I get a little heated sometimes.
You start raging?
I do.
And she's like, Hudson, calm down.
Yeah.
It's not that serious.
Yep. It's a game, she'll say. It's just a game.
And you're
Take
over
it
there
easy.
pouting with fists up by your side. I can just imagine you.
Yeah.
So angry, throwing his controller.
Yep.
She's like, will you
All of
calm
it.
down?
Yep. That's 100% the case.
See, I'm not much of a gamer like I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to play video games all the time. Like when I was in college, I played so much, like an unreal amount of video games where now I haven't even turned my PlayStation on in like almost 2 years.
Oh, what better day than today?
Start it back up.
You just drop...
Start the addiction back up.
Yep. Drop a cool 60, 70 bucks and you could be losing to me at MLB The Show.
The thing about gaming, though, is that you do like save money doing it, I think.
What do you mean?
Because like, yeah, it costs $60 or whatever for you to like play the show, like to buy the game. But then in the long run, you spend so much time sitting inside your house when you play a bunch of video games. You aren't going out. You aren't doing anything. Like you aren't spending any money outside the house because every day you're just like, gonna go home and play video games at my house. Once you make that initial $60, as long as you're not buying anything within the game, you make that initial $60 purchase for just the game.
Yep.
You could make that last for hours, for days.
And you could
months.
you could play a lot of games just the subscription service, and you're only paying like $15 a month. So yeah, actually, when you put it that way, money saving tip from Isaiah. Just play video games instead of having actual real life in-person friends that you hang out with.
It is true.
And then you can invite those in-person friends if you want to play video games with you at your house.
Or you can just go outside and get fresh air.
That's right.
One of the two.
Put the video game console outside.
Yeah.
Play out there. Get
That's the truth, too.
The real baseball experience. All right. We got a good podcast for you, don't we, Isaiah?
Oh, it's a great one.
Enjoy, and we will catch you next time.
We'll see you guys.
Your For You page would be a lot more fun if it had Hudson, Nikki, and Isaiah. Follow at RadioU Official on TikTok. The Riot. Radio U.
Next year. And that is that Ken Griffey Jr. is the third highest paid player on the Cincinnati Reds, which if you don't know baseball, it doesn't mean anything. But here's the thing about Ken Griffey Jr. that you need to know. Ken Griffey Jr. has not played Major League Baseball in about 12 years, I think it was. He hasn't played on the Reds in 15 years. And yet he's still, because of the contract that he was handed out when he was traded to the Reds all those years ago, he's still the third highest player, which he's only making like $3.59 million.
Only.
I guess that's still, it would be nice to have that. But that's not a lot for baseball. But because the Reds are such a cheap organization and they're rebuilding, that means that they just don't have any other players, veteran players making a lot of money. And so he's the third highest paid player on the Reds, even though he hasn't played for them for over a decade.
Yeah, it makes me wonder because obviously he's like 53 years old.
Yeah.
And so his initial contract, obviously that was so long ago that I do not remember. did he have a really? I assume it's obviously just a really long contract.
Yeah.
That was just like a little bit smaller each year than having to pay him like one huge lump sum in like a 5-year period.
Yeah, they'll do that sometimes in sports where, he was, I don't know how long the term of the contract was for him to actually play for the team, but because it was so much money, they spanned it out. It was $112 million. It was a 9-year deal. Now, that was in 2000 is the year he got traded, and so he signed a deal with the Reds. So he was supposed to be there till 2009, but nevertheless, the contract, because it's $112 million paid out until next year, he'll still be being paid by the Reds.
Which I think is kind of a smart way to do it for him. Because he'll never have that issue where he's worried that he's going to blow his money, right?
Yeah.
Because if they give you
he's Ken Griffey Jr. I don't think he's going to have that issue anyways.
But like some guys, like when they're in the league, like a couple of years, like 10 years, 15 years down the line, they were hot dogging when they were a young gun. They got all this money when they were like 25 years old. And then if they give you a lump sum of like $60 million, you're going to be like, I have $60 million in my bank account. I can buy whatever I want. But if your contract's a little bit smaller for a longer period of time, I mean, if you're getting $3 million every single year, you would think
even if you blow through it all in one year, you're like, I got another 3.9 coming next year.
Yeah, until you're 54 years old. Like, it'd be really hard to mess that up.
Yeah.
And so for Ken Griffey Jr., I mean, at the end of the day, I think it was kind of smart for him to take it over that many years because then he can probably financially be a little bit more responsible.
That is a responsible call. Very adult of you. I think I was just trying to think of an analogy of how this would translate to any other like walk of life. Like if you think movies, this is like if they paid, like it's not even the same. I was thinking like, okay, the Rocky movies. This is like if the woman who played Adrian, the actress, Talia Shire, if she, when Creed 3 came out, was still like the third highest paid actress. But even that would make more sense because they wouldn't have made Creed 3 if they didn't make all the Rocky movies she was in. That would make more sense. It's like if they paid a bit character from Rocky 5 and he was like the fourth highest paid character in Creed 3. That's what it would be like. It doesn't make it just, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Reds. And it's, I guess, shows that even though opening day brings hope for a lot of teams, not probably the Reds.
Not a lot for the Reds, but it does show that the Reds at one point in time were willing to spend a lot of money.
That's right. Kind of.
Hey, they're already eating anyways. Might as well do it on the show. The Riot with Nikki and Hudson, RadioU.
Now, last night was the finale of The Bachelor. Isaiah, please tell me you watched.
I did watch all 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah, it started at 8 p.m. Eastern, ends at 11 p.m. Eastern.
Jeesh. Well, you really put in the time.
A lot of work there for me.
Yeah, we should add that to your timesheet.
We should.
So set the stage for me. The Bachelor. Zach is the Bachelor.
Yes.
Who is left?
We have Katie.
Who are the ladies? Katie
and Gabby.
Okay.
Are the two girls left? We had just cut Ariel in the one before last week's episode. And so we were down to the final two, essentially. And they did their final dates. And they also, there's a lot of time during the finale where we do reactions because this is recorded before. And so, like, Gabby was there as well as Ariel. So they sit down with Zach while they're watching the whole thing, pretty much. And so they get to, like, give their, like, reactions.
Is that live?
It's live, yeah.
Okay.
And so they get to give their reactions to, like, how everything went down. And Zach, I wish you would have done this, and I wish you would have done this as well. And so he pretty
that
much
must be great as a guy.
He pretty much gets roasted the whole night. They're like, well, you should have done this differently and this differently.
Dang.
Right after we watch it.
What if you had to, like, if me and my wife, we went back and analyzed our previous dates. We had to watch them back and be like, here's where you screwed up.
Yep.
You get the telestrator out. Now this was a time where you almost lost me. Our first date could have ended right here.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And the best part is there's a live audience too. And so, like, they always do, like, the talk with Zach after they've been cut with the show. So essentially, like, Ariel got cut from the show. And then after she gets cut, they do, like, the sit down, the live sit down. And she's like, I wish you would have done this, this, and this. And then there's a live audience too. So, like, it's wild because all the people in the crowd are just like nodding their head at Ariel, like, yes, go at him. Like he didn't have to cut these girls. Like he had to pick one.
Right.
And so at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm sure most of them are very lovely.
Oh, yes, they're all fantastic.
But you can only choose one.
You can only pick one of them.
This is America.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, I mean, he's going to have to, like, break some hearts. And so, but they just go at him every single time anyway.
So the final dates, where does this all go down?
They were in somewhere far away. I can't remember. It was somewhere exotic.
Tropical?
Yeah, it was tropical. It was exotic.
Romantic?
And very romantic. And they did their final dates or whatever. Of course, the main thing for the girls, they're like freaking out because they don't know who's going to be picked, Gabby or Katie. I knew the whole time who it was going to be. It ended up being...
Because you saw ahead of time or because you just could tell?
Because I could just tell.
How many episodes?
And because it's who I would have picked as well.
How many episodes in could you tell?
I thought that the person who ended up winning was Katie.
Okay.
And I think she's been a front runner the whole time.
Well,
like
makes
she
sense.
has been leading the charge, at least for me. I thought she's been leading the charge the whole way. And so when she got down to the final three, I knew for a fact that she was going to win. At least if I was on the show, I would have picked her as well. So I thought he made a good decision.
And so Katie is the choice.
Gabby was upset.
Yeah.
She was
and
really
then
upset.
the two of that, Zach and Katie, have to face Gabby there in person.
Well, Katie isn't out there with Gabby when Zach talks to her. And so essentially they do a whole thing at the very end when he's making his final decision where they come out on a boardwalk and they're standing in front of the beach and they pretty much get to find out if they're the one who gets picked or not. And so Zach is talking to Gabby. She walks out there in like a dress and all dressed up, and she's either going to get proposed to or she's going to get like her heart broken.
Whoa, propose?
Yeah, proposed to.
You can't just like choose one. You have to propose.
You got to pull the ring out.
To?
You don't have to, but like it's like thoroughly encouraged to.
How long have they been hanging out?
They've been hanging out for like 2 months or whatever it is. It's a wild
normal
show.
timeline.
Yeah, exactly. And so she comes out on the boardwalk. He's like giving her all the like the love and stuff. He's like, I've had such a great time with you, all this stuff. And then he's like, but, and then she starts freaking out. She's like, just stop right there. Don't say anymore. I don't even want to hear it. He's like, I've had such a fun time with you, but I'm just not picking you, essentially. And she took it decently well. I thought she did okay. There was a lot of tears that happened, which is understandable. And then they talk with him afterwards. She essentially says that you should have treated me differently and told me earlier, a lot of like the typical stuff. And then he ends up proposing to Katie. And
so him and Katie happily ever after?
Happily ever after. They sat down at the live show and seemed like they were having a grand old time. So good for now. It's been about a month. So good stuff.
It's great to see that love can still happen.
And for all the other girls like Gabby and Ariel, I'm sure they have a flood of men that
they've got a lot of options.
They have plenty of dates that they could line up if they want to.
But there's only one Zach.
But there is only one Zach. So did they lose out? I don't know.
Hudson and Isaiah seem like they know a lot about sports, yet somehow it's Nikki that always gets it right. The Riot, Radio U.
You know what you would have to go through to cancel your gym membership if you wanted to?
I don't know.
You don't even know, do you?
I don't know. But there has been ones in the past that I've had to cancel that have been unreal.
Yeah?
To cancel.
Was that Planet Fitness?
Planet Fitness is crazy.
They are insane, right?
There's one Planet Fitness where if you want to cancel, you have to like write them a letter.
That's
Isn't that
the idea.
Craziest thing you've ever heard?
It's a crazy thing. Well, you'll be glad to know then that the United States Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is working on banning subscriptions of that nature. And not as in not banning a gym membership, but what they are trying to ban is services where it's super easy to sign up, gyms, streaming services, different like membership stuff. They're trying to ban stuff that will make it easy for you to sign up, but the process to cancel is exponentially harder than it is to sign up. Planet Fitness would be the ideal candidate for Planet Fitness. It's probably not easy, not difficult to go into Planet Fitness or maybe even online and just go, hey, I want to sign up for the gym. And then they just sign you up, take your card information, you're good to go. But to cancel, and you can speak to this, it's not easy.
It's like insane.
It's not that easy.
Yeah, you have to like go to the location that you were formerly using and cancel there, which obviously it stinks to walk into the gym and tell them you're no longer coming to the gym anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving up. Yes, it's over. Like, I'm throwing in the towel, everybody. Just so everybody knows, I am done going to the gym.
And I don't want free pizza anymore either.
Like, one of my friends moved completely to another city. And they said that if he wanted to cancel a subscription, he would have to write a letter to that Planet Fitness to make them know. And he's like, I'm talking to you on the phone right now. I don't know if he did or not. I mean, he canceled it at some point. I don't know if he did or not. But he's like, I'm on the phone with you right now. Why don't you just cancel my subscription? Like, I'm not coming anymore. I don't want to pay anymore. Like, you're going to have to write a letter. Like, wild. Just wild.
It's an insane requirement. My wife had a similar situation where she also had a Planet Fitness membership in a different state that she's moved away from. What do you do? Are you actually going to write a letter? So she probably has like a bill, because I believe that's how it works, right? Is if you don't write the letter, you can change your card and stuff like that, but they're probably still billing her.
They're just billing you.
So one day, I don't know, like how it works when she dies or something, then that will come out of her will or something.
And then you're gonna owe Planet Fitness $7,000.
I don't know how that exactly works, but that is obviously, it's ridiculous. And finally, somebody is doing something about it. The United States Federal Trade Commission, they have a proposal that would lead to a formal ban on those subscriptions. So here's how they plan on doing it, is the rule would say it has to be equally as easy to cancel a subscription as it is to sign up for it. So if you can just click and enter your card information to sign up, they call it click to cancel. You should just be able to click to cancel, so that all these companies can't make their business model, well, we'll just make it so difficult for you to quit that
you never will.
So that sounds like a welcome change. Now, this is still going to be a while down the road, because right now, apparently, it's open to it's open to public comments. I don't really know how it works, but eventually, one day, it sounds like they will actually go ahead and ban these subscription services from charging you endlessly when all you want to do is just get rid of them.
You know, they need to do the same thing for your email when you subscribe somehow to some list, and then it's like impossible to unsubscribe. And no matter how many times you unsubscribe, it just keeps on emailing you. It doesn't matter.
I love the ones that say you may still continue receiving emails for up to 2 weeks or whatever. It's like that. Why?
I just told you not to. I'm not going to change my mind now.
That's not what unsubscribing means.
I don't care about your newsletter. I don't care.
It's time for a change, and maybe by the day we die, the FTC will finally put a stop to this madness.
Find more Riot content online. riot.radiou.com.
The security flaws with certain Hyundai and Kia vehicles, where they are easily stolen. It's vehicles that were made by Hyundai and Kia from 2011 to 2021. And people constantly, if you ever go on your community message board thing on Facebook or Nextdoor or whatever, or you just like watch the news, you see that people are getting their Hyundais and Kias stolen all the time. And it feels like there's not a whole lot they can do about it. But fortunately, and this is great, Kia and Hyundai have come up with a solution. They are now distributing free steering wheel locks to police departments across the country. And so if you have an affected Hyundai or Kia, you can go to the police and ask them to set you up with a steering wheel lock so that you can put that on your vehicle when it's parked somewhere, and boom, it makes it incredibly difficult for your car to go anywhere without you being present.
Well, that's good for Hyundai and Kia.
That's one way to do it, isn't it?
That is one way to do it. And then I assume you just have like a key that unlocks it.
I think so. I mean, it's just, like any other lock. Like the locks that they probably should really enforce on the vehicle. They should have enforced on the vehicles when they, made them.
So, I'm just confused as to why they're more apt for being stolen, as I don't drive a Kia.
Yeah, so you haven't kept up with this?
I mean, I've heard about it. People complaining about their cars getting broken into if you drive like a Kia or something, but they're just easier to unlock, or what?
I may be wrong about this. It's not that they're necessarily easier to unlock, but they have a security flaw, and you can find this on TikTok. You're not just asking me this so you can go steal Kias and Hyundais, are you?
I mean, if it's that easy.
So you're tempted?
My brother drives a Kia. I could steal his car.
That'd be a good prank. But
That'd
that's kind of how it started,
one.
I believe, is that people realized that you could basically there's a way. I think it's a USB in these Kias and Hyundais that's exposed, and so if you like mess with this USB deal, then you are able to jumpstart the car, hotwire the car,
like in the movies.
Yep, exactly. And it's super easy to do that. Where most vehicles, it's not as easy as they make it look in the movies, and so you're able to get it rolling without having the keys, and so then all of a sudden you've got a car, and you can take it who knows where. And that's what people are doing. And then it made its way around TikTok, and people, of course, it's always TikTok's fault. And so that's how this all got rolling. And now, it's so prevalent that Hyundai and Kia, like, they got to do something. And it's gotten so bad to the point where they're like, steering wheel locks should work. Nobody can steal your car when you got one of those.
They can't turn the wheel. There you go.
Yeah, they can hotwire it, but they can't drive it.
They can start that thing up, but they can't be turning it
Yeah,
on.
what are they going to do with it now? Now they're just going to start your car up and then drive it straight until it crashes.
Until it crashes.
Yeah. And I mean, so this is it's just it's just nonsense, isn't it?
It's nonsense. You just don't steal from people. It seems like a pretty easy thing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to not steal. It'd also be nice to make cars that aren't so easy to steal. In 2023, almost every car company has figured it out. A pretty reliable way of making sure your car doesn't just get stolen and driven away.
It seems like an important
by somebody
feature,
without the keys.
like being able to have a car and not have it be stolen.
I think I want my car to have a couple essential features. I want it to start driving. I want it to be able to stop driving. That's an important one.
Yes.
And I want only people that actually own or have permission for the car to actually be able to drive it.
That's
also too much
important.
to ask.
It's a bit of a stretch for Kia.
I don't even care if it keeps
Hyundai.
me safe. I don't even care. I find that overrated.
Yeah.
I don't even care about that. I just want me and people I trust to be the only people that can drive it.
We're not sure who behaves worse, the Riot or their dogs.
I don't even know how to behave like a real human being.
The Riot, Radio U.
I got a new dating trend for you. You ready for this one?
Let's hear it.
Breadcrumbing. You know what breadcrumbing is?
Not sure what breadcrumbing is.
Breadcrumbing, you might be able to figure it out. You know, if you leave a trail of breadcrumbs for somebody, or I guess in the books or in the books.
It seems like you're trying to lure an animal towards you.
It does, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
picture it's an old Family Guy episode. I think it's James Woods. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy. Until they lure him into a box.
Precisely.
That's what breadcrumbing is, though. It is leaving a trail of crumbs, a trail of whatever, slowly and surely, or you could do it with an animal. And it's trying to lure them. But the problem with breadcrumbing is it leads nowhere. That in dating terms, breadcrumbing is when someone will lead, kind of like leading you on, maybe even unintentionally, but it never leads to an actual relationship forming. You ever been breadcrumbed now that you know what it is?
I don't know if I've ever been breadcrumbed, but this does sound like something that people do.
Yeah.
Where they act really interested, but they never act too interested.
Yeah.
Where they really ever have to put in any real effort, but they'll consistently hang out with you or something.
Right.
And then in the end, it ends up with nothing.
Yeah.
A handful of breadcrumbs.
Right.
You never get to the good stuff.
You get little bits and pieces, but you never get the full thing. You never get the full loaf. You never get loafed. That's what I call it.
You never get loafed.
That's what I call it when you actually start going steady with somebody.
Got it.
It's being loafed. But in the meantime, if it's kind of a will they, won't they situation, you're getting breadcrumbed. And I understand why this happens because in some ways, I'm not going to say it's the best part of getting into a relationship, but it is the most exciting. One of the most exciting times is when you're kind of getting to know somebody and could this go somewhere? Could it not? Are they interested? Are they not? That's exciting, right?
It is.
When you're at that stage. And so breadcrumbing just continues that stage on, but it never gets any further. And so you can see why it can also be harmful because there could be one side of the equation where they're, again, maybe even unintentionally, but they're leading somebody on, dropping the breadcrumbs, keeping somebody else interested, but also that somebody else is very interested, could be, they could be exploring other avenues, finding somebody else who actually is interested, but instead they're just being strung along, following a trail of breadcrumbs that doesn't lead to a loaf.
How may you escape the breadcrumbing or avoid it? You may be wondering, right?
Yeah. You got some ideas?
I think the best idea is to always give a mutual amount of effort in a relationship.
Okay.
If you're like all in, like doing a bunch of stuff and you are realizing that you're putting in way more effort than they are, or you care way more than they do, you're probably being breadcrumbed, if I had to guess. If they're just giving you just enough to where like in the back of your mind, you're like, does he still really like me? Like, does he like me? I don't know for sure. But then like he'll give you like a little bit to like keep you going. That's being breadcrumbed.
If you're always the first texter, the first messenger,
or the one who's always asking to hang out.
Yep.
If they never try to make plans
if you're
with
always
you.
initiating.
And then when you guys do hang out, I'm sure it's really fun. It's always a good time. But if you're the one who's always initiating all that stuff, you might be being breadcrumbed.
And also keep in mind, I think it's harder because anybody can be a breadcrumber as well. And that feels nice too, because it feels like you're getting attention from somebody.
Yes.
Which is why a lot of people wind up unintentionally doing it. But you've got to watch out. You don't want to give somebody the wrong idea, because we know how that works out. Not
you can
really
always
good.
tell.
Just again, the mutual amount of effort put in. And if the other person feels like they're not putting in the effort that you feel like you want to put in, then that probably means it's just time to cut it off.
Maybe you need to go your separate ways.
You got to go find a loaf somewhere else.
And you'll find the whole thing somewhere.
Yeah, you definitely will.
Stop settling for crumbs.
There's a loaf out there for everyone.
Let's get a real meal in here.
Yeah, who wants just crumbs when you can be fine dining?
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
Isaiah, do you remember the movie The Aristocats?
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Did you watch it as a kid?
No, I don't think so.
No, you didn't?
I don't think I've seen this one.
It is a movie about a family of cats in France, and they belong to a rich person. So that's why they're Aristocats. And then they get kidnapped in a scheme by the butler, where because he's upset that they're going to. I don't want to spoil the whole movie for you.
You can spoil it. It's okay. It was from 1990.
It was from 1970.
Oh my gosh! I'm never gonna see this movie.
Well, you may not see the Aristocats from 1970, but what you should be prepared to see is the Aristocats live-action remake, which Disney has announced it's now working on.
Oh, we love a good live-action movie.
Especially when it revolves around animals.
Cats?
Yeah. But you know what? We say that, you and I, but you know what made a whole ton of money? That Lion King remake that doesn't have a single person in it, even though it's live action.
I haven't seen that one yet either.
You haven't seen it? I know you haven't seen it, but a lot of people did.
Yeah. This isn't doing much for me, the Aristocats.
It's
live-action remake.
Is doing something for somebody. Now, I'll tell you what does give me some kind of reason to think that maybe this could be different from their other live-action adaptations that Disney has made. They've already signed on a director, Questlove.
We love Questlove.
You don't know who Questlove is,
I don't know who that is. Of course not.
Questlove, he's the drummer for The Roots. He's also directed a documentary called Summer of Soul. It's about music actually from the time of the 70s, but basically like Woodstock, but with soul music. It's very interesting. He's just a good music guy. I believe that the music in the Aristocats is going to be very interesting.
And he's the director.
He's the director.
Gosh, so they broke the bank on this one.
He's a busy guy.
Busy
Questlove.
guy.
And so this is going to be a dramatically different take. You know, like The Lion King, the remake, not all that different from the original Lion King that so many grew up with. The Aristocats, this remake is going to be very different, I think, from the Aristocats from 1970. So that's Disney's. Obviously, they've got The Little Mermaid as their next big live-action remake coming down the pipeline. your level of interest not as high in that as well, I assume.
I'm not as much into the remakes for me. I like the originals, I would say, than the live action remakes.
But you don't even like this original.
Well, this original I don't even like in general.
So
no.
the remake maybe the remake will be something that more strikes your fancy, and it won't be like, well, I already know the story, except that I just told it to you.
Maybe the remake could be better, but for me, I feel like usually I like the originals better. The live action remakes don't do as much for me, but maybe this will be different.
Can you tell me a Disney cartoon movie that you would like to see remade live action style?
Oh, easy.
Okay.
Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo. Clearly. Yeah.
Obviously.
That makes a lot of sense.
Makes so much sense.
I was going to say, on a seriously, I'd like to see how they do this. Emperor's New Groove.
That's a good one. How about Hercules?
Hercules. I think they're doing that.
Are they doing that?
I believe that they are doing that.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
See, that one I would say.
That's
a
to
good
work
idea.
out.
The Aristocats.
Not as much.
Doesn't do as much for me.
Well, we'll just see. I've got more of an open mind about this one than many of the other options that they've trotted out there for us so far that still seem to do quite well despite our misgivings about them.
Add a little riot to your Instagram feed. Follow at RadioU Official. The Riot. Radio U.
I have here. Isaiah, tell me, you visited a lot of cities around the country. Which city do you think has the worst drivers? Go ahead. Don't be bashful.
You mean to throw out some bad driving cities?
Throw a city out there.
This is completely blank guessing. I think people will probably say, I just went to Seattle. I would say Seattle would be one that I would toss up there. The roads are pretty wild there. People say like.
Let me see. Where does Seattle?
Yeah, where do they rank?
Here? I've got a ranking. This is. I've got a ranking here from clevermove.com, where they put together a lot of different data. They weighted traffic fatalities, alcohol-related traffic fatalities, percentage of uninsured drivers. They used all states' best driver rankings, how much rain a city gets, all this stuff to factor in where are the worst drivers in the country. And I will let you know that you thought Seattle was one of the worst. Seattle is actually the 35th worst.
Not that bad.
Not that bad. I'll tell you that the worst state for driving, Florida, and the worst city and 3 out of the top 5 worst cities for driving are Florida. Jacksonville, the city for the worst drivers, according to this data here from clevermove.com. Because Jacksonville has very high driving death rates per their population. So that's no good. Although they don't have the highest. Memphis has the highest. But they get a lot of rain in Jacksonville. There's a lot of uninsured drivers, which is bad, right? If you're going to get into an accident, you don't want to get into one with an uninsured driver.
That is the truth.
And so Jacksonville is the worst city for drivers. They say they're number 1. Then you've got Louisville, Orlando, Tampa, Nashville. That's the top 5. But get this. They also surveyed people on where they think the worst drivers are. Like, what is the public perception, right?
Yeah.
Number 1, Los Angeles. Number 2, San Diego. 3, Sacramento. 4, Phoenix. 5, Birmingham. They didn't even have Jacksonville. Nobody associates Jacksonville with bad drivers. They do associate Los Angeles with bad drivers, even though for Los Angeles, they're way down the list. They're 41. They're actually pretty safe.
Pretty good drivers.
Pretty safe compared to the rest of the country. But this is also odd. They also asked people, where do they think the best drivers are? Los Angeles somehow came in at number 1 for that.
No, it did not. It came in as the worst and the best.
It came in at, as far as the public is concerned. Many people think Los Angeles is the worst for drivers, and many think it's the best. I think it's a bad city if you want to drive in it, although I've never been there. But everything I understand is it's just going to take you a long time. It doesn't necessarily mean it's dangerous or you're going to get into an accident.
You know why Florida's the top, right?
Why is that?
Do we need to say?
Manatees?
I think that Florida is one of the top ones because there's a lot of older people that live in Florida.
Oh, you didn't just go there.
I did go there, yes. There's a lot of older people that live in Florida.
I thought it was because of the meth.
You think it could be because of that too?
That make it hard to drive.
I think it's a mixture of them
I've never tried it. the old people on meth.
The old people, they
And
go
the
down there,
manatees.
they retire, they go to Florida, and then they just get to do whatever they want. They don't even have insurance anymore. They're like, whatever. Do I even need that anymore? I've been driving for 60 years. Why would I need insurance? I'm not going to get in an accident.
That's right.
I'm one of the
And
best
then they
drivers
do.
there is. And then they crash into somebody.
They do, yeah. I always think, and this explains why Los Angeles is the worst and the best, kind of, is I think every city, like if I asked you, you'd think your hometown, like, oh, Ohio drivers, you'd say they're the worst, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how, like where I grew up, everybody's like, Baltimore, DC drivers, they're the worst, even though, like, that's where you live. You just think, because I just think,
wherever you're at, you're going to complain about.
You just think the drivers are bad. You think you're a good driver, everyone else sucks, pretty much.
That is how it is.
And so
I am a good driver.
Every city you visit has bad drivers. What city, where do you go? Apparently it's Los Angeles. Where do you go where you think people are like, wow, people are really good drivers
These are great drivers here.
Never happens.
Doesn't happen.
The Riot with Hudson and Nikki on Radio U.
Got a question for you. I don't just mean for you, Isaiah, but I mean for anyone that wants to text in at 8772 Radio U. You can tell on yourself, you can tell on others. But the question is, what is something that you do, something that you notice other people do that is that feels impressive when you do it, but isn't actually impressive at all? Isaiah, do you want to tell everyone why this even came up?
There's a couple reasons. It's mainly because of my breakfast cooking skills. I'd say they're pretty extensive. And in the mornings, I like to do a lot of things that in my mind are really cool in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That realistically,
you actually do several. It's not just one.
Some of the things I do that I think seem impressive, but they actually aren't. Flipping a pancake in the skillet.
Using the pan, yeah.
Yep, no tonsils involved or anything like
Tonsils?
that.
Did you say tonsils?
No utensils.
Utensils?
Utensils. That's the word I'm looking for. As well as like cracking an egg with one hand. That's a flex, even though it's really not.
Yeah.
Those are the main two that I do every day. Were there any other ones that I do? I can juggle with the apples. I do that sometimes in the morning.
You can juggle,
yeah.
but you do tend to oftentimes break the eggs when you try to juggle them.
I don't do that. I don't break the eggs.
You've broken eggs before.
I've broken maybe a couple eggs.
Okay, here's a good one that we didn't even. So these are things that you do that feel impressive when you do them, but nobody's actually impressed.
Yes.
What about when because you do this a lot of times, if you're making eggs, you'll throw the egg shells to the trash can from a distance, like a basketball shot.
And I make them.
Nobody's impressed.
No one's impressed.
No, that's a very small egg in a big trash can, and you're like 3 feet away.
Yes.
It's not impressive.
If you throw something in the trash from like more than a foot away, in your mind, you're like, hope somebody saw that. I hope somebody saw me drain that.
That's
from
the
5
worst.
feet
Yeah,
away.
sometimes I'll do a little sky hook with a water bottle.
If I toss it in behind the back, even if I'm trying to be real show offish, and then I make that, then that's like I'm good for an hour on coolness for a while.
Yeah, you feel really good. But the one that's the most egregious with you is the reason why I thought of this is when you flip the pancake in the pan without using the spatula, you just flop it up in the air like a cartoon character and catch it in the pan. You feel so good about yourself.
I do feel great about myself.
And nobody's that impressed?
Nobody's that impressed, but in my mind, it is impressive.
So do you have any others that you'd like to get to?
See, I have some other ones, but those are that's me telling on myself, right? Those are the things that I do, which I don't think I'm a very cool person in general.
Yeah.
I don't try to be cool. I think I'm pretty goofy. And so for me personally, I'm not trying to be cool the majority of the time, except when I'm in the kitchen here at Radio U. I love to show off in there. But everywhere else in my life.
For me.
Yeah, for just
me
Hudson.
only.
Sometimes Nikki as well if she's in there.
Isaiah's dying for my approval.
But my real day-to-day life, I don't really try to be very, very impressive, right? But there are some things that I see other people doing that make mine look minuscule.
Okay.
Some of the things people do to impress people that are just ridiculous that I think are hilarious to see. Some of the ones I have, ready? If you show money on social media, like if you're on Snapchat and you're like flexing your dollar bills,
Yeah.
like in your mind, people think that's really cool. That's not cool.
Almost anybody can do that.
Exactly.
You just go to the bank. You
and
go
then
to the
you're showing
ATM.
cash. If you're showing cash on any sort of
Yeah.
social media, you look ridiculous. And everyone knows that you look ridiculous. Like
Okay.
that's not a flex.
Good
Also,
one.
next one, any kind of loud vehicle. If you're revving your engine, you need to go home. You need to fix the muffler. You need to go home.
If you got the bass pumping and it's like, I always feel like for people, like, I don't know, I turn up my music really loud. But
I like it loud too.
I don't have some cool sound system. I'll just turn it up loud, but you can tell other people, they definitely feel like everybody else should think they're cool. And we don't. Like, we're not impressed. We have our own music we're listening to. We don't care about yours.
The loud cars, like if you're revving your engine, if you ever rev your engine,
cut muffler.
If you rev your engine on any roadway, anywhere, that is the worst thing you can do. You look so silly. It's wild.
How about a car-related but totally different aspect? Backing into a parking space.
I do that every time.
You do not? Why don't you pull in every morning?
Well, it's different because I pull in here. I drive a truck, and my friends get mad at me because I always back in. But it is a flex, and it's hard to do.
Why do you do it?
Because it's easier if you drive a truck to back in and be able to just pull straight out. If you pull into a parking spot when you drive a truck, it's really hard to back out. But yes, you back into parking spots driving a truck.
Yeah, that's not impressive.
You know,
nobody's impressed.
It's just an easy thing for me when I'm leaving. It's a quick escape. It makes it better that way.
You say so. I know. I see a lot of people doing that don't drive trucks.
Boy, I don't know what they're doing, but for me personally, I like to back it in there. It makes it easier for me.
You got any more? I mean, I got more, and we got text coming in. So why don't we?
I've got one more good one. That's really a change of pace off of like the showing off of the real big flexes, like you're revving your engine, showing money. This is a different one. So we can do that coming up next.
You want to save it? I've got one that is it is the most egregious. It is the perfect example of this, except that it's only something that I do it completely for myself only.
Oh, I love it.
It's we'll get to them next. Things that you think are impressive, but nobody's really impressed. 8772 Radio U.
You won't hear a show like this anywhere else. And that's probably for the best. The worst of the riot. Radio U.
Let's lay this out again. We're talking things that you do. They're real satisfying to you. You think if anybody sees you doing it, they're like, oh, that guy's cool. And then, but the truth is, it's not actually cool at all.
And we're here to break it to you.
Yeah. So some of the top one is flipping a pancake in a pan without using a spatula. You just fly it up in the air, catch it. Not actually that impressive, but when you do it, you're like, oh man, I hope everybody's watching for this.
It feels pretty impressive when I do it every single day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I feel pretty good about myself.
All right. I've got a few texts.
Jeremy's is impressive.
Jeremy, yeah, that's right. People are texting in stuff that I actually am impressed by. Jeremy says that he can flip an over easy egg without a spatula
and not break the yolk.
That's
the big part.
Right.
You can flip it, but keeping the yolk intact.
Keep it intact.
If you did that in front of me, I would be impressed.
It sounds like Jeremy's got a feathered touch.
He does. He's got that nice smooth hand.
And then Owen says this isn't exactly, and he admits is not exactly what we're looking for. He says he can fold a rose into a napkin. It took him 10 minutes to learn that, and more people are impressed by that than his college degree. So he actually does something impressive.
Yet again, impressive.
But to him, it's the reverse. He's not impressed by the fact that he can do it, but
everybody else is.
Yeah, everybody else. It's like, do that rose thing again.
Owen's quite the romantic, folding the roses into
the napkin. That's right. Hey, don't knock it.
I like it.
Okay, so
I need to learn that one.
Yeah, it only took him 10 minutes.
I'll just Google it I'll YouTube that one.
Yeah. All right, you want to hear mine? That is the perfect example. And this is one that's not even, I guess I imagine that if someone else saw me do it, they'd be impressed, even though they wouldn't. But nobody else would ever see me do it. And that is when you get undressed and you take your shorts, your underwear, boxers, they're on the end of your foot, and you flip them up and catch them. No.
Or just toss them in the laundry hamper.
Yeah. And with your foot.
It's the dumbest thing. Yeah. That's the dumbest thing.
You feel like, man, that was cool.
That was sick. I agree with you 100%.
And I don't think I've ever flipped them up and not caught them, so it's not difficult.
I mean, and every single guy, I don't know if girls do that.
That's what I was wondering. It's hard to picture a woman doing that
same thing, but I know every single guy in their life. You've done that probably over 100 times.
And you felt like $1 million.
Then you're in your room by yourself. And
nobody around to see.
Flip it up, you catch it, you throw it in the laundry hamper, or you just go straight for the laundry hamper. You just flip it right into the laundry hamper. Either
you mean like you throw it up, catch it, and flip it like all one motion?
Or you just kind of kick it into it. Kick it into it. Either one.
You want to hear another one that I feel really stupid, but
yeah, go ahead and share. Because the first one was fantastic.
Yeah, if I go to, this is not as good, but if I go to a grocery store or whatever, somewhere where you have to type in your phone number, and I try to type, like if I'm doing the self-checkout and it's like, enter your membership, and I have to type in the phone, I try to do it real fast.
Real quick, like.
With like all 5 fingers on the touchpad. And without fail, I will mess it up, and then at the backspace. But I don't know why I do that. Why I think I need to do it fast. It would save me like a fraction of a second, except it actually takes me longer to try to type it in fast. And like, what am I expecting? Is the Kroger employee going to be like, "Whoa, we should give this guy a job"? I wouldn't even take it. I wouldn't take the job. And they're not hiring people based off of my typing in my phone number ability.
What about like regular typing fast? Do you think that's impressive? Like if I was sitting here on the keyboard, and I know you're a bad typer.
I'm a bad typer.
So if I was sitting here just going fast, I think that's kind of impressive.
A little bit.
I think when a secretary can just kind of plow through it, I think that's pretty impressive. But if you're on like the little pin code thing, that's not impressive.
If I'm just single finger.
If you're putting in your pin, yeah.
Yeah.
Or typing in your email address on there, not impressive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for
I
you.
I guess I'm just an unimpressive type of guy.
I think there's a lot of things that people do. Also, things that people say too. People love saying things to you that in their mind when they said it, they're like, this will make me sound really cool.
Like?
And then one of them that I think, this is another one that I had listed. And this is the girl who talks about how all of her friends are guys. That's one that they think is really impressive. They're like, oh no, I'm like one of the boys. I'm one of the guys. They bring me on all their trips, all that stuff. And every guy you tell that to is like, got it.
Sure.
Nice. I bet they love it.
Yeah.
That's another one for me.
That is a weird flex.
There's so many weird flexes that people do that you think are going to be impressive when you say it. And if I ever do it, if I ever say something.
Nobody's going to call you out on it.
Yeah, no one. They're just going to be like, that's nice, man. That's good for you.
Well. We're not as impressive as we think, I guess.
If you guys want to text any more in, we'll tell you if they're impressive or not.
That's right.
So far, you guys have texted in a lot of impressive things.
Things that actually are legitimately impressive. A lot more than catching underwear with your hands from your foot.
Or flipping a pancake.
The only thing Isaiah loves more than the riot is himself.
Someone who probably still lives with his mother and hates himself.
You're listening to The Riot on RadioU.
Things that when you do them, you feel really cool. If you saw somebody else do them, you wouldn't be impressed at all. Is basically what we're going with here. We got a good text from Jake. Jake says when you're in the parking lot with a shopping cart and you like push it into the corral from a distance.
Yesterday.
And it goes in. Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it?
I did that just yesterday.
Nobody else.
Somebody saw it, too.
Oh, yeah?
They saw me do it.
Did they give you, like, an approving
I'm sure they thought
nod?
that was really cool when I pushed it in there.
Yeah. We also got a good text from William who says, driving with your knee under the steering wheel.
That is such a relatable thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's done that.
Now, Miguel texted in and said, knowing all the words to a song. That's a tough one, isn't it?
It's not a flex. Like, it's not.
It's
not what you think it is.
I especially think of like going to concerts and having like all the words memorized, and you think like, oh man, I'm gonna sing along.
If people see me singing like this, that I know every word, they're gonna be so
They're gonna
impressed.
put me on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think it's bad to know all the words to the song. I just don't think
it's not a flex.
Anybody's impressed. In fact, sometimes I think they're a little surprised, and they might think like, take it easy, like,
easy,
just slow
big dog.
down with it.
Yep.
You got any more?
I'm trying to think of any other ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, how about this one?
Okay.
Hudson does this all the time.
Yeah.
Using big or fancy words that are unnecessary.
What? No, I don't think. You know what? I don't do that to be impressive. Yeah. I definitely don't. It's just
people
just the way
do that though.
I am.
I'm not saying that you do that. But people do that.
I like to have a bigger vocabulary because sometimes it gives you different, just a different take on things. It makes what you're saying more illustrative.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes people use these wild words, and I'm like, you could have just said the easy one, but you used the hard one. I'm good for you.
Yeah, that is true.
Any other ones?
You know what? I see that Judah texted in. He rehashed one that we missed earlier, and that is when you make a shot into the trash can.
Yes.
Isaiah does that every morning with his eggshells.
With all kinds of things throughout the day.
And no one's impressed by it, but you feel great when you do it.
How about this one? When you're young and you're hanging out with older people.
You feel so cool.
You feel so cool, but no one's actually impressed by it. But in your mind, it's impressive.
And the older people are probably looking down on you in some kind of way.
Yes, like your friends, like I'm sure like when you're at a certain age, when you're like 14 or something, and you're hanging out with like some people that are older than you, I'm sure some of your friends might think that's cool maybe at that time period. But as you get older and older, that's no longer a flex anymore.
Well, I guess the weird thing is when you're like, let's say you're 11 and you're hanging out with a 15-year-old, that might be cool to you as the 11-year-old. But the funny thing is that 15-year-old may not be considered cool by the other 15-year-olds because they're hanging out with you. Which kind of defeats the whole purpose of you feeling cool. So, but you know what? As long as you feel good about it.
Yeah, you know what? That makes you feel good. That's good.
Justin says coming to a full stop at a stop sign.
That makes you feel impressive?
I feel more impressive when I don't come to a full stop.
When you roll through
When you're just able to, coast is clear. And you're just able to roll through.
You guys see that? Me breaking the rules like that? Take it easy on me, all right?
Yeah, or how about this one? Just beating a yellow light. When you hit it just at the right time, you can like see it go red as you pull through.
And you get right through there.
Yeah,
everyone in the car is like, whoa.
You feel like James Bond.
That was perfect.
Yeah, that's actually probably dangerous, but to you, you're like, nailed it.
Yeah, a lot of those. I think the driving with the knee, or just driving with one hand in general. If you're driving with one hand or just like with your knee, yet again, the thing that you think is impressive that is just not. Because every single person is doing that yet again. Yeah,
it's, man, again, I just keep getting reminded that none of us are as impressive as we really want to be.
Or that unique. We're all doing the same things.
You've made it all the way to the end of the Worst of the Riot. This show only exists because of support from listeners like you. Find out more and help out at RadioU.com/donate.